The power season slipping away in the wet in the west. The name change working wonders for the Dockers. They remain undefeated as WALYALUP as they begin to resurrect their season and move their way up the table. Winners by 49 points.
Alrighty, hello and welcome to the CREEDCAST. My name's Dave as always. Thank you for joining us as we get into the round 11 review. Once again, your Yartapuulti Footy Club has started okay before falling away, much like the German war machine ground to a halt in Russia. Was Opted Stadium our battle of Kursk, a point in which the tide shifts distinctly to only one eventual outcome, as whilst there is plenty of time left in the war that is the 2025 season, it feels that our chances in 2025, if not before, were well and truly snuffed out in a feeble second half display on Saturday night. 15-10-100, raise your bats, WALYALUP, to 7-9-51 was the final score for your Yartapuulti Footy Club. And your resident qualified pair therapist is in the house. Jamie, good evening, my intrepid fellow traveller through the 9 circles of Port Hell. How you doing?
I'm in a glass case of emotion, as you well know. I'm getting pretty sick of doing these ones, let me tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look, hey, for Patreon members, as we all know, my expectations are pretty low. So
is that me?
as
That
discussed
sign that
last
was at that
Thursday.
protest? It's like our expectations
Yeah, exactly.
you were low, but holy fuck!
Low. Yeah. And that's the thing. I decided to go do a social recreational activity at the same time the football was on.
Yeah.
Just so I had some distraction, albeit I still watched a lot of the game while I was trying to hit a golf ball at X Golf Windsor Gardens. Shout out to them for a good time while the shit show was on the TV. But yeah, look. How am I? I'm alive. That's the main thing. How are you?
Alive. Yeah. I guess it's funny. I was thinking about this the morning after the game. So I woke up the morning after the game. It was like, I guess not doom scrolling, but just, you do your scroll on Instagram. And there was one thing, there's an account, and I encourage everyone to follow this. And a lot might be already because he's blown up to 1.5 million followers. And you might know of this too. I haven't actually mentioned this to you, but this guy that quit his job, liquidated his retirement savings account, and is sailing a boat from Oregon to Hawaii, and he's planning to do around the world. It's like sailing with Phoenix. I'll put the link in the show notes. It was my buddy Vince. Shout out Vince. He listens, I believe. I think he gets behind sometimes, but I know he listens because his wife is coming to his office at one point and is like, "Wait, are you on FaceTime with Dave?" And he's like, "No, I'm just listening to the podcast." But shout out Vince and Brittany. But yeah, his guy's sailing a boat from Oregon to Hawaii, and it's just beautiful, updates every day. He's got his cat with him as well. He's in Hawaii now. It took him 23 days, and I was just like, this is just such a beautiful thing to wake up to and see, just the journey. And I was just like, there's some perspective for me. So that gave me a little sunny morning after the horrors of Saturday night, and listened to some Grateful Dead on the way to work. And I was like, life's fine. I'm pretty pissed off at the results and how we're going, but there's reasons for it, and more macro reasons we'll get into. And shout out to Eddie Corns, who's coming on our podcast on Monday night when we do a full look back at the first half of the season. So obviously tonight we'll just look back at the Freo game. So any of the more bigger reasons around why we're where we're at, maybe we'll leave until Monday, but some of it might just get touched on as we go, as it does. But yeah, pretty pissed off about it, that second half. But also, as I said to you off air, I kind of just sat there resigned to the fate of it pretty early in the third quarter as the Freo kind of kicked away. It's just for fuck's sake, here we go again. And I was calm.
Quickly turns to gallows humor.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Just I'm doing the memes on Sunday nights now because it's just it's all I've got now. there's no how good were these stats? It's just oh fuck, we suck again.
Yeah, and I texted you. What was it, Monday night? I was watching the first half, and I just said to you, like, fuck's sake, get to halftime. Willie just kicks a goal with like 10 seconds to go on the clock. You're like, all right, yeah, fuck, yeah. But then obviously watching the replay, you know what's to come, and it's so annoying. Just seeing a competitive first half without maximizing our chances, just to watch it unravel. Inevitably, it would seem at the moment in any game, we'd have to be up by fucking 10 goals at halftime to have any like room for comfortability as fans.
Yeah, I mean, well, look at what was it, 70 points against Hawthorn, and it got to a point of like, we could blow this. So, like, it's like, if you're up by 10 goals, it's like, no, we could blow this. And that's AFL football.
Yeah, or we're facing another negative record on our hands here.
Yeah. Oh,
shit.
Lord. I mean, because good Lord, that first quarter, some of the stats, like I was catching some on the replay, and to be fair, I was watching the replay while I was doing a few jobs around the house. It's just like, already had my main kind of talking.
That was my second half replay today. Yeah. Just unpacking the dishwasher, repacking it, things like that.
I finally I had the second half on today. I like my Amel and the Sniffers poster from their show in Adelaide in January. I have that in a frame, and I finally got that hung in the hallway of where I'm living. So that was what I did while I was watching the second half. I was like, I'm going to miss 6 minutes of the last quarter while I get the level out and make sure it's up straight. And so achievements while the last quarter was playing. But that first quarter, some of the stats that popped up, we were 18-9 in uncontested marks our way with 7 minutes to go was mentioned on the telecast. So double in the uncontested marks, and by the end of the game, they're well ahead of us in both contested and just general marks in play. So that just flipped throughout the game, and we had a 20-8 inside 50s in the first quarter, just dominance. But we just couldn't put it on the scoreboard because we still end up down by 2 points by the end of the first quarter. And it's just like, I already had that fear at the end of the first quarter. I was like, fuck, there's a lot of and the commentators going, geez, Port have got the control of the game. It's in their control. And I'm like, but we're down by 2 points. So what happens when the inevitable part of what we've been seeing from Port this year is we can't maintain control of a game. It's all a little bit of what we've started a lot of games well, actually, maybe St Kilda aside. We have actually started pretty well for a fair part of the season. And that's just what's frustrating is then as a few years ago, I was like, we don't start well, but then we finish the games well. It's like, fuck, we just what I'd give for a 4-quarter effort, which to be fair, if you actually look objectively, a lot of teams around in the modern AFL can't do 4-quarter efforts. You see swings and roundabouts in so many games.
Yeah.
Teams have runs. Yeah. It happens for every team. So it's not just us. But because it is a biased Port podcast, I'm sitting here. We've already done this once off air. But why is this happening to me? So
to me, of course, yeah.
So just that. But those first quarter stats, and then even it was into the second quarter. A commentator. So when Lord misses his shot, which again was probably a pretty horrible. It was a distance out with 5 minutes gone in the second quarter, but it's still he shanked it. It wasn't even close. So yet again, Lord's really struggling at the moment. But the commentators, as he's taking that shot, say, it's game on their terms. But then they go forward, get 2 stoppage goals. No one going with the mover out of stoppage. And I think it was Matthew Johnson, who had a pretty good game, actually, for he's only a couple of years into his career, had a good game. He gets one out of stoppage. So then they get the break there because it was a couple of points at that point. And then a minute later, Frederick scores from a forward half stoppage again. I think it was Johnson again doing some nice work inside. And they're suddenly up by 15 points. And with the weather, it just already felt like, and that's 2 minutes after the commentators have said the game is on our terms, and we're suddenly 15 points down in a wet weather game at Optus. And I'm like,
that's right. I think they then reflected on that not long after, because I know there was a lot of discussion about how we were still trying to play our dry weather style of football, which we're still trying to learn as a collective, albeit we don't have the same team on the park every week to learn it as a collective. But and you mentioned the uncontested marks and whatnot. Yeah, we were just trying to still hit up short targets, work it around the field, up the field. And while it was quite visibly wet, And then to add frustration later in the game when it absolutely started pissing down and we still tried to fucking overpossess the ball. Um, but you said it there. Like, we screwed around with the ball, apart from George's fantastic first half, which a nice flip around, which we'll get to the lines shortly. Yeah, it was just same old, same old, same old. We didn't take our chances when we had them, or we weren't creating space or kicking to advantage enough to take those chances. It was just very quick in and out ping pong football. And then, alternatively, Fremantle found themselves in and around goal or 50 metres and they took their chances. So you've wasted all that energy gaining statistical dominance. And it's just a recurring nightmare almost leading into the bye.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, recurring nightmares are really apt way to describe it, because it did feel like all these things that we're seeing repeatedly every week, whether it be, and it is, turnovers is one of the big things, and it stands out from this game once again. For teams that on their seasonal average poured a +5 on Freo, but on the night they were +9. Clangers was bad as well. So just like insight in.
So basically, the things we discussed on our Patreon show, I think it was.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And I was just like, copy and paste clangers and turnovers for the, opportunity for improvement, shall I say, to any game that's been and any game that will come. And I think friend of the pod, Stu, Patreon member, mentioned like he listened to our Patreon episode after the game, and it was funny how some of the things resonated. And I think that might have been one of them, was just clangers and turnovers, because it just seems that after halftime or like 15 minutes into the third quarter, we're just running on an oily rag. And that's when the clangers and the turnovers compound as well. Not to say that we aren't somewhat inefficient in the first halves of games that we're playing at the moment, but like at least we're competitive. Like I came on here last week and said, like, the first half of the Geelong game, I kind of enjoyed to an extent, because it was a tough, hard, contested game. But things are just unraveling really, really quickly, which is it's now 11 games of some sort of that thing happening, apart from a few outliers. Like we didn't win the last quarter against St Kilda.
The only time it actually hasn't happened really is Richmond. Like, I know we lost the last quarter technically, but we were up by 86 points at one point, so it's not really. But every other game has had its trepidations within it, whether it be win or loss. Sydney, they came hard and were unlucky to probably not get themselves within a goal to actually really put the pressure on. Obviously, the North Melbourne game, you and I were sitting together and losing our hair. And Hawthorn, I think, I can't remember if it was a lot of off-air chat prior, but like it's come up tonight at some point that Hawthorn was very, very close to being getting to a trepidatious point if they'd gotten within 20. Like, we just managed to keep them at the 4-goal margin, but they were coming and had a lot of time. So, yeah, the Richmond game's the only one that has actually been stress-free in the second half, and often it's unfortunately we haven't found ourselves far ahead enough in the last 4 weeks to even entertain being in a game in the second half, because we've been blown out after that. The Crows game aside, and the Crows game I think is one that we performed. It's really frustrating to look back at that one, because we performed really well and should have won that one. And now
it was brought up on 5AA earlier this week, just about how like that's an outlier, and like how can that not be replicated?
Yeah. It's him
at least every second week, let alone every other, that like every week.
Yeah,
you play a game of football.
I mean, you brought it up after game one this year against Collingwood. You said we're a boom or bust team, and there's been a lot of that. Tim Ginniver's
a lot of bust. Yeah.
Now, well, Tim Ginniver's paraphrased exactly what you said in my 1 point of 5AA as well, just saying they're either really hot or they're really cold, and there's not much in between. Stats for you again, as far as score sources, they were 6-5-41 to our 2-2-14 from stoppage, and 9-4-58 to 4-7-31 from turnover. So rinse and, as you said, rinse and repeat again. Like I fucking like I knew I was.
Well, and we're not Yeah, sorry.
No, no, I was just going to
I'll
say
let
I
you
knew what I
finish.
was going to be fined probably when I looked at it, but I was hoping to be pleasantly surprised. But like you watch the game,
Yeah.
so that's the raw numbers,
Well,
right?
and I think you brought up that stat last week against Geelong as well, and you mentioned the turnover score sources. Like we're getting our fair share of turnover scores,
Hmm.
but yeah, it was 4-7, and I think last week it was a similar like just like imbalance. It was just low goals,
Yeah.
high behinds, whereas the other team on turnover are getting more goals than behinds and genuinely making us pay, and we're just not making anyone pay at the moment. While
Mm.
yeah, while admittedly being competitive in first halves and whatnot, you just can't. Yeah, you got to replicate it somehow. Like the fitness is clearly coming up as a regular issue. I just don't know how in modern AFL football, when all of this stuff is tracked within an inch of itself, like you can be that far off. Um,
I
the
think it.
turnover thing
I think you've said
is
this
always
before.
going to make it. Yeah.
Sorry, just to interject for a second, just on the fitness. I think you've said this at some point this season that when you're turning it over and out of position so much, you can look unfit because you're chasing ass and chasing tail so much. And that, like, I think
Mm.
you said that. I feel like you've said that at some point this season, and that's been resonating
I
with
think I've
people.
said it a couple of times.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the more defending you do, the more gassed you're going to get. And
yeah,
we're just defending a lot lately.
hmm
And it all goes into the melting pot. And look, our bottom six players at the moment are like pretty low in either in confidence or form, and like obviously, aren't necessarily up to it at the moment, but we have no choice. So we're playing guys out of form, out of confidence, inexperienced. There's probably some players carrying niggles, obviously,
hmm
as all AFL players do as the season progresses, who aren't on the in the rehab room. So yeah, and then as that unravels, like we started, yeah, just kicking in hope, and the balls were getting turned over because we'd win a possession, we'd win a contested possession, and instead of continually trying to hit up targets, even though it was the wet, and it can be, a territory game, you can simplify it, and which we didn't in the first half, which was surprising, and it was benefiting us to an extent.
hmm
But even in the wet, like you can still kick it advantage side in a contest up the field, but we just weren't. It was just turned into hack and hope. And Fremantle, to their credit, they really locked up on us after quarter time, but particularly after halftime,
yeah,
knowing that we were kind of spotting up short kicks and getting that kind of handball short game working. But yeah, just we can't. Yeah, we just keep leaving ourselves exposed, and while that happens, the utmost highest of criticism will go on the fitness, the list, coaching, everything. Everything is in the gun at the
hmm
moment, rightfully or wrongfully. It's just the nature of this business and fandom and punditry, which is just a real drag.
hmm
Like, obviously, I'm sure people who are tuning in, thank you, of course. Like no one wants to be listening to reviews of losses consistently, and likewise, I'm avoiding some like media and stuff like footy media and stuff like that because I just don't want to hear it. Yeah, you know,
yeah,
I know. I think a lot of people listening would probably be in the same boat. It allows me to focus on some other things in life, which is
hmm
good in one way. But I want to be just I want to give my life over to a successful Port Adelaide team every week, and I
yeah,
want to soak up every second and every minute of football content related sport in a
hmm
positive way. But it's just not happening at the moment. We've got a lot of work to do over the next couple of weeks before we play GWS in Antarctica. Um,
yeah,
and we'll get some troops back, but this season just is not, and it seems just will not go how the club would have hoped. As they came into the year, making the announcement that they did, just nothing has worked.
Yeah. And I was going to say, it's just injuries and all that plays a part, but then, what the intents, we'll never know now with how the injuries have gone, and we'll talk about that more when we do the half
that's
next week.
Yeah.
But it's hindsight's 2020, and you can sit there and say it's a bad decision now and all that stuff, but it's hard to know with the injury crisis. I mean, just to touch on it like quickly, we won't talk about the mid-season draft too much tonight, but the fact that we had the second, like Essendon had 4 picks, but the next highest amount of picks in the mid-season draft was us with 3. There's like 8 teams or 6 or 8 teams that didn't even take part in it because they didn't need to, but we've obviously taken the decision to put Todd Marshall, Tom Cochrane and Xavier Walsh on the long-term inactive list to be able to draft the 3 that we did. So that kind of speaks to where we're at as far as just our list goes, or our list health goes, and these things, and that feeds into the events of the night because there's just a lack of synergy and so many parts coming in and out, a lot of inexperience, and the guys like Christian Moraes runs hard all day, tries hard all day. Hugh Jackson coming in as sub, like all these guys do a lot, but they're part of such a dysfunctional setup at the moment as far as what we're trying to do that they're trying to learn how to play the game at the AFL level within a team that's just not functioning well at all, and don't have we're trying to play a game plan, but whilst also just trying to let the stars do the work rather than actually let the stars be a part of the system. Whereas you see how Freo played, they've certainly been under the pump at the start of this year, but they're starting to find a little bit of run, and there's just an inherent trust in the people like the likes of Isaiah Dudley and Murphy Reid, who are first year players, that they were stars in the night. Like Dudley putting that kick that just to Murphy Reid's advantage at one point. Can you hear me?
I can. Yeah.
Sorry,
I had it on mute.
Yeah. For those listening, I was just watching Jamie talk, like looking like he was making a really great point, but I could not hear shit. So we'll leave that in because that's funny.
Yeah. I hit the cough button, didn't unhit it, but just basically saying they're in tune with one another, and that shows. But also, like as we mentioned in our Patreon show, they were younger than us. Like we didn't have that excuse this week where we have had that as an element in other games. Like they were, I think, nearly 2 years on average younger than the side that we put out on the weekend. So
it was like 20, it was like an average of it's like 25 or 30 games less played by average on the side, I think, as well. Like 76 games average for Freo, 109 for us. Likes of Boak and Wines tip that, but that's the nature of any list, and so Freo. But the fact is we should be, it shouldn't be a 49-point loss when the list makeup is like that. But they've got some young stars that are really playing well, and it's frustrating to see some of the commentary out of it about what Port did at the draft. It's just like let the guys we have at least have a couple of years of development. But I understand the frustration as well when Murphy Reid looks as good as he does.
It's such reactionary crap.
It is
to talk about that kind of shit. Well, when Freo also wanted Joe Berry too, so yeah. And like Murphy Reid had a great game. He was opportunistic in that he got himself into the right positions. Our side wasn't defending him very well on occasion, and he cashed in.
We were also allowing a lot of opportunity for him, and they had a lot of good stoppage work that allows him to do his work, and then goals out the back. But,
well,
I mean, one of his goals comes from the fucking Rosie taking the clearest mark I've ever seen and just not getting the call on the front contact and the two hands clear above his head. Ball between both, gets knocked out with some front on contact, and Rosie's done the arms wide, fucking what was
with
that?
Arms wide open. Yeah.
I need to get those things ready for the second half of the season.
Creed on the CREEDCAST.
Yeah. There's gonna be
but I know what you mean. And
page of Creed.
Just while we're on marking, we're gonna need it to get us through. But just while we're on marking, Luke Jackson's mark in quotation marks, like I'm kind of okay with it being paid, but like I just couldn't help but think of all the ones that Mitch Georgiadis has been called to play on in very, very similar
What game
fashion.
was that? It was like a few weeks ago where he took like 4.
Sydney,
Sydney,
well,
that's
Sydney
right.
was like, yeah, one that really stood
Yeah.
out. And yeah, Jackson's mark, and then it was a great goal, obviously, in the wet.
Hmm.
I'm like, did you actually control that? And have I not just seen Georgiadis be fucking reamed by umpires all year? Like, I was taking similar marks that for him haven't get me. Yeah,
Yeah, the
really. Yeah,
Finlayson
I
one in
know.
the was that in the showdown? Was that North Melbourne? Finlayson won late against North Melbourne, I think. Wasn't that?
Mm,
Yeah. Where he like takes
hmm.
one that gets overturned by the one of the field umpires. Like we're getting all that.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
dealing
two
with
on
that
each
shit all
side.
year. And again, it probably happens to everyone else. But why is this happening to me? Like, yeah. Um. Oh
Yeah, we're
shit.
not getting Maccas, and you can blame my son.
I can hear the like intro music. Do-do-do. Um.
Yeah.
You want to get into the
Let's get
lines?
into the lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
For some reason, when I'm not gonna, I just immediately had Bailey Smith's Instagram comment
Do I?
come up. Yeah, just thinking of
Baz? Yeah, maybe
yeah,
after the grand final. After the premiership.
let's get into the
Oh,
line.
hasn't that just got the dinosaurs all fucking jumping up and down in the AFL?
So funny. Just before we get into the lines, as in lines on the field, although Robbie Fowler would make that into something as well. But like Eddie McGuire going on his high horse, and like I like fine if you're going to have a point about it, but you were president the entire time that Dane Swan was a part of your team, and you love that guy. So
Yeah.
a guy that's openly admitted, yeah,
Yeah.
I used drugs my entire career. Like he never
Yeah,
says
he
this
wasn't
verbally,
just
but yeah,
drinking grog.
yeah. So yeah, Eddie McGuire can fuck off again, being like the world's biggest hypocrite. But anyway, the
Yeah.
lines, the football lines. Defensively, a game that
Sold out.
yeah, we really miss Lockie Jones. Like he's become like quietly. I just think we would have loved to have had him in this one. Like, not that I think I don't know how much that helps in the end, but like Lockie Jones, we saw what he did against. I mean, Jeremy Cameron's kicked 13 goals in 6 quarters since Lockie Jones has been injured. Like,
Yeah, I
uh,
know.
and I think Dirk Thatcher was fine, but just
I think he was more than fine to
yeah.
be for his first game back
Well, that's what I mean. It's just like
after a back.
yeah, it's just like
Wow.
they're again being beaten by everything that's happening up the field and having to deal with it. Like, yeah, I don't know what to say about it.
Absolutely.
It's just like our team defense overall is just horrible, and it's selling out. As you said, they're getting sold out by the rest of the team. So,
Mm.
yeah, I mean, go ahead, but that's just like my immediate thought on the night was like, Lockie Jones is still a work in progress as far as some of his disposal and some little things. And again, sometimes those good things get mountains made out of molehills at times, but he is a work in progress. But his defensive ability has really been quite good this year. And I just immediately, just one of the things I noticed when I was watching the replay, I was like, geez, you missed him just his closing down speed at times because they were getting a lot of space at times. Would have been really helpful. And yeah, that was my main takeaway, apart from just, again, they're getting sold out. And as you said, it's fucking frustrating. Again,
Yeah,
every
it's really tough to every fucking week. Yeah, yeah. They'd be going like, guys, fucking, we're doing a lot of fucking work here, and I got to pay them credit. Like, I'd say that I think I've said it a few weeks ago, but up to this point, I think they've been our best performed line over the first half of the year, just through sheer necessity. They've had to be good.
yeah.
And you could argue that some of these blown out margins could be even fucking higher than they have been have our defensive structure not been as good. And, yeah, like you said, the rise of Lockie Jones in a sense and
Mm-hmm.
Asava.
Playing well when
Yeah.
he
Elias started this year a lot better than he started last year. Like I said, Zerk Thatcher, I thought came in and like we kept Tracy and Amos to 1 goal between the two.
Mm.
And now it was wet. So you give them that. Georgiades kicked 3 at the other end. But yeah, I like, because what was it? Zerk Thatcher led our marks or something in the end. Alir led us for 1%ers. Like they're doing their fair share. Atkins deserves a mention, of course, because probably one of the better performed on the ground. And sorry to bring it up again, but on our Patreon show on Thursday, we spoke about how at that point, when you're a game outside of the A, essentially, and percentage, of course, for us, like you can't give up on a season. Like no sporting organization can give up on a season before it's actually like literally out of calculations, and players still have to be picked on merit, and he's been putting the numbers up.
Yeah.
So he got picked on merit, and he performed his role. There's no other way to put it, and I think he has got plaudits from the fan base in some regards, but it's a bit backhanded from a lot of people.
Yeah, I guess, Twitter on the night. There was a lot of people being like, Atkins is probably our best player. And then some people were like, it's bad when Atkins is one of our best players. But it's like he was. Like, yeah, his stat line is really, really impressive across the board. Only had a couple of turnovers as well. So he wasn't a major part of the turnover problem considering of how much ball he had compared to some others. So, yeah, when you third best on ground as far as disposal numbers, and you're only 2 of the fucking 65 odd turnovers, then probably not doing too badly based on what everyone else is doing. So yeah, no, it's a great point.
Yeah,
he used the ball well, and
but
also just a slight shout out to a couple of the defenders, both Atkins and Alir in the long sleeve. Enjoyed that, just as a little aesthetic thing that I noticed watching the replay more than live on the night, but love the long sleeve.
Yeah.
Guernsey getting
2 historical, long sleeve wearers. Malcolm Blight is a big fan of the long sleeve in the wet because it offers you a bit more grip for your chest marks, which I totally see the logic in it. So would have liked to see a few more, in each line just for vibes.
Yeah, I always love when
Robbie would have loved to see Robbie Gray in long sleeves running around. That would have been. Oh, I tell you who I am really missing at the moment, and that is a big Charlie Dixon up forward. But anyway, we'll circle back to that as we move up the field. But in terms of the defense, like I've got to give Logan Evans a shout out. He's copped his whacks this year. He's come in, put too much pressure on himself, self-admittedly, in the interviews that he did, was it last week? But he's come back in. He's my spotlight because he's come back in, had 2 games of 20 disposals, using it at a good clip as well. So just a young guy, sub 20 years old, I might add as well. Just learning his lessons, 82% time on ground, using it at 71.5-ish disposal efficiency. So
5 tackles, which
these games
were really nice.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to make note of the tackles because he had a couple of really nice tackles that I appreciated. So
and when we're giving the ball back, the importance is higher in tackling.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to give him a shout out. He's part of that group that Bergman was still midfield and like back a little bit in some rotations. The score doesn't flatter them, but like we've said a few times, they're having to do a lot of work for a lot of structural decline.
Yeah,
up the field.
Where our best line going into the season is arguably our worst line based on what you'd expect out of them versus the results. Logan, I was pretty impressed with Evans on the night. There's a little bit of some touches of what it sucks that at the wet weather game maybe you would have seen even more at, but like just in the attitude and how he applied himself in the game, he looked like he was locked in for it. And if it wasn't for the wet weather, he might have even seen more of like that kind of vintage Evans from last year. And by the way, like he just signed his 3-year contract extension, which I think he's well earned. He's done enough out of the mid-season. So funny seeing a lot of like mid-season draft talk and no one talking about Logan Evans as one of the like. I think there's a list that listed Jed McEntee as our best pick at the mid-season draft, and this isn't to shit on Jed McEntee, by the way. He has had his moments, but I think already Logan Evans, as far as the upside going forward, he's our best mid-season draft pick so far. So, long may he have a career in Port Adelaide colours if he can start finding the consistency more and improve on what the highlights he's shown us.
Yeah. I think it's just been a matter of releasing the shackles a little bit and just trying to release a bit of that self-imposed pressure that he's admitted to putting on himself
between the years. Like a lot of, you listen to the great athletes from whatever sport it may be around the world, they'll talk about the mental application is the most important thing, and that's what gets you. I mean, there's a lot of physical preparation that goes into it, but as far as what happens once you're on field, it's all between the ears more or less, because your skills and physical preparation naturally come with it if your mindset's right. So yeah, I'm not like a big psychologist person, but I love reading about sports psychology and different athletes and how they metabolize that, because it really is just, if you prepare right off the field, and it's all about how you go into the game. And a lot of what's going wrong on the field for us, I think, is just a bit of a malaise as far as where we're at. But I love that as a spotlight, by the way. Ready to go to the midfield, because I think that's good. We kind of, half of our defensive problems are there anyway, so might as well crack into those underperforming, very talented on paper people. Sucks that hindsight's 2020, but I like the Luke Jackson, Dontavius. I don't know what Sweet does against Jackson either. I think maybe a bit more experience might have helped, but just starting there, like Luke Jackson, just maybe in the hitouts it doesn't look so bad, but it's in the around the field stuff, whether it be score involvements, all those kind of numbers around the field, like
contested possessions.
Yeah. He just
+7 hit outs to advantage.
Yes,
as well. That's where, yeah.
And there was even a couple of hit outs that looks like that Vicentini's technically could have been credited with it because it comes off his hand. But there was one where I was just like, Jackson's just pushing Vicentini's hand, and it goes down to there was one of them where it just goes down to a Freo player anyway. And I'm like, and I looked at it, I was like, I think that's Vicentini's hand that's tapping it. Does that go, how does that, I was thinking I should go back to, I'm not going to go back to it. I'm never watching this game again. But I'd love to actually find, if I had the time and this was a full-time job, I would go back and find that and ask the stat people. I'm like, who is this credited to? Because it's off Vicentini's hand, but it essentially is like Luke Jackson just pushing his force into the hand and making it go down where he wants it anyway. So, he just monstered him, and I don't know what Jordan Sweet would have done, and I'm not bitching about Vicentini at all. It just really was men against boys stuff with what Jackson did on the night, and a lot. And he just built into the game.
We all love. Oh, he did, yeah. As Freo as a whole gained ascendancy, he just rose with that tide, didn't he? And we all love Vicentini's competitive nature, and he's holding up well. If we were just depleted for ruck stocks, and he's the only one we have, I can't fault him from a form and experience point of view, throughout his career, that is. But the fact of the matter is Jordan Sweet is our number one, and he got to rough trot. He got dropped. Vicentini's rightly been just fucking plugging away at SANFL level. But after the bye against Kieran Briggs, who isn't tiny, while I think the differences may be minor, like we mentioned, Sweet's run before he got dropped, it was pretty tough matchups that he had to cop, and obviously the coaches weren't very happy with some aspects of his game, but
Mm.
there is a time soon where he probably has to come back in, because Visentini is still young. There's got a point. There's going to be a point where he starts to drop off physically as well, and whether they just make the call coming out of the bye,
Mm.
will be interesting to watch. But yeah, like I'm not unhappy with Viz. I think he competed well. He still got 11 hitouts to advantage, and albeit Jackson had 18, so it was -7 in that battle. Like they're not terrible numbers for a guy in his first 10 games of football. It's just, yeah, where because Sweet's obviously part of our future. He's still young enough. He's in that perfect age bracket.
Yeah, because he's only
It's yeah,
30 games into his career or something like that. Like he's as far as his games played, he's actually very, very inexperienced. It's just we think of him as older
yeah,
as
and
he is.
he's
Yeah,
in his mid to late 20s.
yeah,
So um, there'll come up. There comes a point where he'll need to come back in because he needs to be our number one. And like by and large, it looked like he'd taken another step out of preseason, and he was contributing well. We've mentioned his run and handball game, just linking up with our midfielders.
mm,
Um, so yeah, it'd be interesting to see where that goes because yeah, Visentini is a young guy and he's going to get perhaps just thrown around a little bit more as each game goes.
yeah.
Um,
Especially with a guy like Luke Jackson is like the commentary. Like I hate highlighting it, but it was just great. Like when he kicks that goal, and it was a Papali. I can't remember if it was Papali or I think it was him that goes unicorns do exist. Like when he kicks the goal from the bound, like that tight angle on the boundary, and goes because he went the drop hunt there. I'm pretty sure, and it's just like slots it anyway, and yeah.
yeah.
Kind of was like capped off a point of the game where he really exerted his dominance and it was late on. Yeah, the unicorns do exist line kind of summed up the
Hmm.
matchup for me. It's just like, yeah, you're going up against a bloke that kind of there's
I
a
mean,
reason he
Jackson
was
was a
hunted.
first round draft pick, wasn't he?
Pretty sure,
He was
yeah,
like a top ten draft pick.
yeah,
So
because
um,
he is like that kind of player that can play the way he does and contribute as far as what he does as a ruckman, but then do what he can do as a general field player as well. It's
hmm,
at such an elite level, like because he's contested possession, 15, like he had 8 score launches to Vicentini's 2. Like there was just so much that he was doing
hmm,
outside of his ruck craft, and then he still gets the because we're just looking like we as ruck starved Port fans just looking for someone that kind of bridge the gap a little bit, but then you've got someone like Luke Jackson that just wins the ruck battle and then
hmm.
clearly wins the field battle as well, and it's just like fuck just to have one, like we had Paddy Wright. Like it just
Hmm.
sucks that Paddy Wright he's got.
It is a rarity
It is, yeah. And
to do
Paddy
it in
Wright is
in
still
that
a
manner.
player, but like it's the last time we had a player that we felt like was just a real.
Oh, and a lot. I think that Viz will get to what Luke Jackson does in 3 years' time. Considering I think he's been in the system for a couple of years. Jackson's in his sixth year of AFL football,
Yeah, he's the number. He was the
sixth
third
or seventh, whatever it is.
pick, number
So
3 in 2019. I didn't realize it was that high, but
it's just two, yeah, super high, and
yeah.
It's just two guys at different stages of their career.
Mhm.
Like I said, I got no qualms for Viz, and we're kind of sitting on the ruck position, maybe making it sound like Visentini is the reason why, yeah, our midfield broke down and ergo we lost the game. But it's just an interesting kind of not a sliding doors moment, but yeah, it is just two people at different stages of their career.
It was where
One
they
who's
used,
very comfortable in their game, and
yeah.
one who's still trying to learn.
And it was where when we look at front half versus defensive half possession, we were shading it in the first quarter. I think it was like 55-45 at one point in the first quarter when we had front half possession and we were controlling the game okay. But as Luke Jackson started really just working Vicentini into the ground, that's again sounds bad. It wasn't that bad, but it's just like he did exert his dominance. That's where the field tilted to take a parlance from the NFL where they talk about field position. It's like the field tilts one way, and it comes from just something that you're doing, and it was just their work around, whether it be center clearance or stoppage. Like, I mean, their score, like, we didn't score a single point from center bounce, and they scored only 2 goals, 2-14. But it kind of, again, just they tilted the field enough, and then obviously the stoppage the stoppage score was heavy, and that a lot of that was their forward half scores were double ours, almost. We kicked 4 goals.
Well, we can't fucking hold it in the forward half at the moment. Like, I think
that was our Onewood a few years ago. That was like front.
Well, but yeah,
pressure
it's an interesting topic, and I'm pretty sure another friend of the pod, Dave Lloyd, called up 5AA the other night, and he brought up the fact that our game plan was kick it to Charlie, to a lot of people's chagrin, but he would either mark it or never get beaten. Yeah. Rarely get beaten, I should say. So, which would force a lot of forward half stoppages if he's not marking it. And it allowed us time to set up behind the ball.
Yeah.
But at the moment, we're kicking it in. And if George, who I believe is the top mark inside 50 player in the AFL at the moment, by the way, if he's not marking it, we just have no answers, and it's just getting taken out way too easily. We're not able to set up the way we used to, and we're just getting absolutely cut to pieces the other way. And again, it's a game plan shift, but we need to be working a way to set ourselves up off the ball, even when we're in possession of the ball, because we're just giving ourselves no time. We're not locking it in, A, and then B, we're just completely out of position going the other way. It's just far too ridiculous, and we're hemorrhaging scores or field position for no good reason. And again, what I would do for a Charlie Dixon back in the side.
Yeah, or just you are correct, by the way. Georgiades has taken 34 marks inside 50, which is 2 better than Ben King in second and Riley Thilthorpe in third with 31. Problem is, then you go down, like, just to use the Crows as an example. So Georgiades is top right, 34. Thilthorpe's third with 31, but then you go down to 10th on the list, or equal 10th, with Aaron Norton. Darcy Fogarty's there with 26. Then you go down to 34th. Equal 34th is Ben Keys, and Sam Powell-Pepper is our next one on the list. So the Crows have 3 people essentially. So we just don't have anyone else. And Georgiades, like, you're starting to see, and Georgiades had some great moments, kicked some goals, and there's getting a little bit forward talk at the moment. But so maybe I'll table that for a second. But back to the midfield. Beyond Vicentini, just for a second, like, how are you feeling about the midfield mix? Because again, I just feel like we still don't know exactly what, like, we're doing the Bergman experiment, which I actually appreciate. Like, at this point of the season, I appreciate that we're trying it to see what we've got there. But you still have, I
actually want to empower Ollie Wines more. I don't know if you have CBA attendances.
I did.
On you.
I looked it up earlier and did I put it into my stats sheet?
Because I unfortunately don't. But they're stat padding. For what that not deliberately is not the accusation, but just the game plan that we're trying to play. We're just over possessing the ball when it is kind of lifting some of the midfield's numbers to make it probably seem like they're performing a little better than they are, but we're just clearly not getting the results. We're not hitting up targets. We're not kicking to advantage. It's just the scramble.
Yeah, the disposal efficiency wasn't good from anyone in the midfield really either, like, as far as just what we would hope for. I mean, Ollie was at best, like, obviously at 33. He only went at a shade over 50%. Butters was 62%, which is pretty down on what Butters can do at his best. We generally expect him to be at least 70. Willem was 65. So Bergman was 78 for his, for the time that he spent. Like, well, I guess that's overall the game, but you're just not a lot of people burning the ball, and that's, again, just comes down to the system just not working that well, and so they're biting off things that probably aren't there because we're not playing well. But as far as CBAs go, like, taking aside the ruckmen who are always top. Ollie Wines is 76%, and then it was down to Butters at 68. So you're already dropping into the below 70s, whereas you at least had their two top midfielders were at like Sarong at 84 and Brayshaw at 76. So they've got like there's a hierarchy and a plan there, whereas we're just like there's like a Butters, Drew, and Bergman were between 56 and 68%. So there's just more chop and change and trying things. And I understand, like, but it feels like that's been the case of the season, that we're trying to fit a few too many pieces in there rather than coming down to a core midfield group. And again, this is like a game that we don't even have Jason Horne-Francis trying to run through there either. So, it's just and something's just the mix just isn't quite working most games. Like I know the showdown was a great example of what happens when you just get a matchup right and then everything works around it. Bergman and Dawson was just genius, but that's just like that's capturing lightning in a bottle for one game when you've really locked in on a matchup that you think will work, and it just works. But it's diminishing. It's kind of like throwing a Sava forward that first time, and then going forward, it's like diminishing returns because teams have got the data, and it's like Bergman still clearly has the ability to play midfield, but then you're playing with it too much, and you're taking away from something else. As far as the rotations go, and it's just it kind of took away from, because we still. Going back to the just the midfield stats, just like the clear, like again, we get just smashed in contested possession, which is an all over the field thing, but it's like contest is a lot of midfield work, and getting smashed in contested possession, and getting shaded in clearances as well. And we're losing the clearance battle a lot. Both it's a small loss, but it's still like for a midfield that we think should be at least more even, as well as the contested possession numbers minus 22 for the day. Against a team that were a -5 difference as far as season average goes. Like we're just losing these battles far too much. And again, I just think that's just not quite having the synergy of understand, like just chopping and changing a little bit too much with the midfield group. But I don't know how you fix that, because you've got the toys to play with, but it's just like you need to figure out. Yeah, the positioning is just not working.
No, and figuring it out at the bye is not ideal at all. But what do you do? Like this is a line that, like you said, JHF was missing. Byzantini's younger than Sweet, who we thought would probably get a decent run at it this year. But you got Zach Butters, you got Ollie Wines, you got Travis Boak occupying some stoppages as well. Willem Drew, like I don't think we want for a lot. So what is going on? Like I have no fucking clue. But Ollie Wines is in some very, very good form, and just due to the nature that we've transitioned our midfield over the last 3 years or so, meant that he's been put more in a defensive role. But I don't know. He's a fucking Brownlow medalist, and in that period of time, it's almost Dangerfield-like in the fact that no one can stop him. Like I just kind of want to empower him even more and maybe center our midfield more around him rather than the other guys.
Well, I guess he's our top CBA guy for the weekend anyway, so apart from obviously Vicentini.
Yeah.
But you'd like to see...
Well, just like that, the 2020 final series and the 2021 season were just amazing.
Yeah.
And he had interrupted pre-seasons after them, but he's had 2 full years of football now, including pre-seasons. He hasn't lost it. His disposal efficiency has always been questionable, but
his disposal efficiency
going back for
better overall, I think,
especially last week.
This game aside, So
it's not really a future planning thing, but again, the season's not dead. Our midfield's not going to get done. So what's going to change to potentially turn the season around and just give him a bit of confidence heading into the back half and then next year as an extension of that?
Yeah, well,
and it doesn't have to be permanent.
Wines are still, we hope, as long as he stays fit, a couple of years at least of football, like reasonable football.
Well, if Dangerfield is still rolling around at his age, and a lot more players are playing deeper into their 30s now, potentially with free agency and all of that type of stuff, extra teams and stuff coming in. Yeah, I mean, I just love Ollie Wines. I think when he's in form, he's an unstoppable force because of just the type of player he is. I just
Yeah,
want more of him.
he's a
Just
bull.
until we can collectively get it together.
Yeah,
And you've got Butters and JHF just fucking dominating, but there's something's clearly not right. And at the start of the season, we spoke about, well, and David King, I think, was the one that brought it up about, the 5 to 10% that you might be off, knowing you're in a transition year, knowing that one coach isn't going to be there, the other coach is taking over at the end of the year. Like, is that what it is? Is that filtering, either consciously or subconsciously, into the playing group, that we're that far off? But that's all it takes. It's all it takes for you. I mean, to bring it back to our Liverpool Football Club, like, they didn't win a game after the cup was secured.
yeah.
Like, that, like, had the cup not been secured with 4 games to go, I would highly imagine that they would be winning at least one of those games,
Well,
if not
he benched
2 or 3 or 4.
He benched Alexander Arnold for the
Yeah.
year because he's not featuring next year.
Yeah,
and I can do that now.
but it's
So
a bit of a drive-by.
Yeah.
But yeah, the point is that, when there's not much to play for in that regard, or just the example of,
happened.
you don't have to be far off to have results not go the way that fans want them to.
Exactly. Again, shout out to Vince, second mention on the podcast, because he messaged during the game the other night when Liverpool were playing the last game of the year, and it's before Salah had equalised, which was just a great little send off for the season. About just being a little bit mad about how the season had gone. I was like, I'm 0% worried. They've been in different countries drinking and training once a week since they won.
In between games, yeah.
And I was just like, there was a season in the 80s, and I was just like, and I immediately Googled it and I had it right. It was like 1982, 83, I'm pretty sure. There was like, and this was back when it was a 42-game season. Once Liverpool clinched the title, they didn't win again, and they had 6 games to go. And it's like so you look through it's like green, 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 the occasional yellow, the occasional loss. Once they clinched it, 7 games of mostly red and yellow. Just like, yeah, and they still won by 10 points at the end of the year. So yeah, there is mentality in sports is everything. And you hear, again, we just talked about it 20 minutes ago. I said it's all 90%. Not a lot of athletes talk about it's 90% between the years. So yeah, that 5-10% of unknown about where Port are going. I was about to say where Liverpool are going. Liverpool are going great. Where Port are going as far as this year and beyond. And look, I'm fine as far as 10, 15 years in the future of Port Adelaide Football Club, but the immediate future of the next couple of years is just a little bit murky at the moment, both with contract issues and so yeah, you've got that.
I'm not even really fucking concerned about that. I think that's the difference between me.
I just think
and
that, like,
clearly a lot of other people,
those players that are involved in that, with both thinking about that as well as the transition, like what?
Yeah,
that
yeah.
5-10%
Sorry,
doing.
got you.
And
Yeah.
Zach Butters is actually playing pretty good football as one, and Miles Bergman are. So yeah, I don't think. But yeah, just as a squad as a whole, it's yeah, that's getting a little bit maybe mid-season review. So I'll rein it back. But if you do have anything else you want to say, go for it. But we should get to the forward lines before we get to our segments for the week.
Let's do it.
Yeah, because we did start touching on the forward line, and I feel like you just want to talk about Charlie Dixon for 20 minutes. So I'm not going to say talk about him for 20 minutes, but there is a lot of.
Oh, I could easily.
Yeah, no, I could too. Yeah, I'll do a whole podcast on Charlie Dixon. I got to reach out to him at some point. But like, do you want to come on the podcast? I'll give you 50 stubby holders with your image on them.
They're good stubby holders.
Yeah.
Jump on the Creed 1870 merch store for anyone who.
I don't actually have them listed at the moment. I need to update. I just haven't had time to. I need to do a full but I've got them here to post up eventually, so I will post about that, and people will be able to access the last run of those stubby holders because I won't be getting them made again. But yeah, like forward line, Mitch Georgiades starts great. Kind of shows. I mean,
and a credit to him.
Yes.
Like, it's because after half time, his supply was seriously limited. So you can only do,
He was
as a forward, you can only do what you can with what you're given.
yeah.
And on this occasion, as opposed to recent weeks, he's actually put it through the middle. So he's got 3 shots on goal. We asked for 4. We don't ask for a lot not on this pod, but 3-0. Really would have liked him to hit up Rosie when Rosie was resting forward in, what was it, the second or third quarters. That was a shank. But yeah, he had a good game with what he had to work with.
Yeah. And he was one of the only ones, really. I mean, no, sorry, Rioli has a good game as well. It's an opportunistic small forwards game in his 100th game. So again, shout out to Willie Rioli. Loved, just a side note to the commentary again on Fox, Will Schofield, when he kicked that goal at the end of the second quarter, and a real great crumbing goal, and just everything you love about Willie Rioli and what his kind of sense for goals are. But Will Schofield in the commentary just said, yeah, no, great, like just talking about the 100th game, and said, yeah, we don't win that flag without Willie. Like just straight up said, and it's just like, just great.
Well, and they had Adam Simpson on commentary as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So
just by the way, super refreshing to have someone like Adam Simpson in commentary, like just not talking shit, just keeping it all about football, but also offering the perspectives that you actually want.
Yeah.
And just telling it, explaining the game of AFL football in 2025. Not surprising for anyone who's seen him on AFL 360.
Yeah.
But if anything, although the game wasn't going our way in the second half, it was still just quite refreshing to have someone who was actually talking about football. And that's not a slight on the commentary team as a whole, because the rest of the guys are actually quite good at what they do. But yeah, he just added another element.
Yeah, it is interesting when you get that outside of the football media landscape of Melbourne commentary team, because it was a very Western Australian commentary team, and different personalities amongst it, but they all offered their like a really it was an enjoyable one. Like I enjoy Papalia.
They had their connection to Willie, like you mentioned too.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it wasn't completely one way either.
Yeah.
It was funny when talking about Mitch Georgiadis, Adam Simpson kind of brought up like, oh yeah, he's a local boy. I had a few chats with him after games, just like, you want to come back? And and then they like grilled him like, oh, you're meeting with players like after games. And kind of went a bit coy, which is funny.
Nothing like that. We just,
it was
I'd run into
impromptu chats.
I was starting to like go like, oh, you're doing Sam Mitchell coffees, are you? Like, yeah. But yeah, he kind of just goes, yeah, no, didn't have any luck there though. So, which was for the time being, yeah. But yeah, no, he took his opportunities well. But as you said, the supply dried up, and again, it's hard to criticize the forward line too much but it was because it seemed like the supply just wasn't. Our entries were haphazard because of the pressure up the field, the pressure that Freo were applying as the game went on. I know pressure rating for the second half was over 200 Freo, and we were about 177. I know they often talk about the AFL average for pressure rating being 180, so we were just below the AFL average. While
I was going to say it's not absolutely terrible, but when the other team is lifting, you've got to lift with them.
Yeah, and when that's like the average over the half, it actually probably is terrible because you're talking about a plus. I think theirs was 207, ours was 177. So, so you're talking a plus 30 number across a half, not just like a specific, because sometimes they just bring it up as what the pressure average is
in a moment of time. But,
that was the second half pressure, and there was moments like Finlayson, who I think actually applied himself okay to the game at time. Like and great goal at one moment, but he's running through the middle and just gets dragged down from a great Frederick tackle, I think it was. It's just like that just summed it up. We're
well, and because he hesitated.
Yeah.
He was going to take one option, then he wanted to take another, and
you don't have that time in an AFL game, particularly against a team that's really upping the pressure as the half goes on. Like I've talked about this time and time again.
And when you're chasing the game like we were, There was also a moment in the third quarter, again, just mirroring the Charlie Dixon chat, where pretty sure Finlayson saw that Pearce was in front of either Lord or Georgiades and could have come across, which meant he would have had to put his kind of go back with the flight, and he kind of chose to spectate, hoping for a crumb, and Pearce marked it. So, again, like Chuck, while he got a lot of love from people like you and I, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners, he also got a lot of hate from supporters for simply doing what he's been asked to fucking do.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's truly in hindsight where you go, well, but it pretty important to the overall structure of our team and spirit and all of that. Like, it's just a guy that you just had no qualms that he was going to give 100% effort. It didn't always pay off for Charlie, and many occasions it wasn't even his fault. But if I want to class that Finlayson note as a shirking a contest, maybe a bit heavy-handed, because I can't put my mind into his and what he was thinking at the time. But yeah, Charlie's going back into every pack. He's competing and taking those contested marks and giving us genuine opportunities in the forward half. And you can understand why a lot of our game plan was centered around him. Like, he's a talisman of our club, but he was also renowned across the competition for his imposing nature. And like, good things don't last forever. I get that, but it just shows that without a real genuine presence, like Georgiades is doing fantastically well in his own right, but it's not the same role, and he's getting his opportunity through sheer work rate, and it's a different forward role in itself. But yeah, miss Chuck. Knew I was going to, but considering how we're playing, like, you just love to insert a Charlie Dixon into that mix, and
especially like 20, like if you just go back in time and pluck 2020 Charlie Dixon out of thin air and just plug him in and go, like, yeah.
It's all fantasy and whatnot. Like, yeah, you got to move on. But our forward line is showing what happens when a game plan changes, but you also don't have a presence to really center around, apart from Georgiades, who is getting opportunities through sheer work rate.
Yeah, because he's not the presence. He's a again, you said work rate. It's more like he's a presence as far as his ability, but he's different. He's a different style, like makeup of player than. And yeah, I'm trying to find, like, have I missed Ollie Lord on this list, or is he really that? No, he's 56. Like, Ollie Lord had 11 marks inside 50 for the year. I know he hasn't played as many games, but he's on the same amount as Darcy Burn-Jones and Willie Rioli as marks inside 50, and Ollie Lord should be already, Willie's missed a game. Darcy Burn-Jones has missed a game through suspension as well. Ollie Lord's been in the side since round 4. So he's actually he should have more marks inside 50 than 11 for the year. And then he's not finishing the few chances he gets from those marks inside 50 generally, So it's just like that is the big elephant in the room as far as how it's going, is like, what would we be doing with Todd Marshall fit and firing this year versus Ollie Lord? We do want to see Ollie Lord get the run, and I'm like happy for him to stay in the side at the moment, because like we need to just properly put him through a season and just, for better or worse, just see what we've got in the player now. But he's still had 2 of his better games in his career since being in the side. One of them being his first game, back into the side. But it just seems to have dissipated to quite a large degree. Has he kicked a goal in the last 3-4 weeks? I don't think he has, to be honest.
I can't remember.
Yeah,
I can't remember, Dave.
I don't think. I think he's still sitting on 7 goals for the year, which a lot of that came in those first few weeks. So That's
And I
concerning.
don't think he's losing too many contests. Like with the delivery from the midfield, sometimes it's being kicked to his defender's advantage
Yeah.
side, as we mentioned versus Geelong. He's not losing too many contests, but
I just want to see that extra
he's a
5%
forward.
out.
He wouldn't be, yeah, he wouldn't be an out and out decoy. And
Yeah.
again, we have no idea what role he's been asked to play, but yeah, you just need a bit more out of your tall forward. He needs to be commanding marks, working into space, and having more shots on goal.
Yeah.
The one he had again, and like I think I can't remember it. Wasn't it? Was it in the Geelong game, perhaps? But maybe it was. But it was just about our commentary on like you might not have that many opportunities, but the ones you do get, you got to make sure of.
I think it's
And
my concern.
that's not
When he
happening.
misses, they're bad misses at the moment. That's what it's just like. They're not like shaving left to right, and you're seeing okay. There's because when Mitch has missed some of those ones, you go, oh, he's not too far off or whatever. Earlier in the year, especially, like he was just like depending on the angle, he'd just put it a little bit too, and he'd shave the left side of the post or something. But I mean, there was the one in the showdown with Ollie Lord that just absolutely shanked and didn't even make a score when he was kicking from inside 50. And then this one was like he made the distance, but it was closer to the being out in the full than a goal. And it's just like there's so much and again it makes the issue seem that much worse because where he's missing his few opportunities at the moment too. But again, he's got the body and he's got the attitude, I think, and he can compete well. It's just like he gets lost in some. And again, so much of that comes from just not getting. Again, throughout the second half, just terrible supply and not good opportunity. So I do caveat my criticism with that, but it's just you got to see more. But there is a lot of stats that just do speak to the fact that we're just a terrible team at ball retention and those kind of things. And I think we're one of the worst plus minus teams of the year. Third worst in kick retention. The only teams worse than us are West Coast and North Melbourne. So it's concerning. So that speaks to probably at least. It's so obvious. Yeah. And the teams that are just behind
we've been talking about
Richmond,
turnovers.
So.
Yeah.
And they're not going great.
We've been talking about turnovers and clangers all year long. How can an AFL side who isn't going through a rebuild just be that bad?
Yeah.
And look, our best team isn't on the park. I think you have to pay credence to that fact. And nor has it been all year. And it's no surprise that when our injury list was shortening, that's the period of the year where we were doing better overall.
Yeah.
And then as those injuries have kind of mounted again, the side as a whole has unraveled a little bit in gameplay. These are all reasons that go into the melting pot. We haven't had a good run at it, and it's just compounding everyone's emotions. Like I'm not concerned for the short-term future because, like I mentioned in one of our shows last week, like if we'd miss a year of finals, we generally bounce back, and premiership tilts come in cycles. Like Geelong are an outlier. Sydney, by and large, are an outlier. They look like they're probably going to miss again this year.
Geelong
they're the gold standard.
They're also going to get a slap on the wrist for
for breaches. Yeah, I know.
Which I know. I'm being a little facetious because I know from what I'm
parking cars in parents' driveways and stuff.
Yeah.
No, we'd know nothing about that. But yeah, like they're the gold standard of continually competing. But in reality, runs at premierships come in cycles, and we all know that we haven't cashed in when we've been, balls deep in those premiership tilts. Yeah, totally get that. But this year, reset, transition, whatever it is, like I'm cognizant to that. Like it's obvious. Again, I don't believe it's Ken Hinkley's game plan that they've just changed for 1 year to get him some sort of fucking premier. Like, I think Josh Carr, it's everything's a transition
Yeah.
this year. The
But it's
list,
something-
the team, like, yeah, the experience, the coaching setup, the
yeah.
game plan. It's all a transition.
Yeah.
And until we get our best team on the park, we're not really going to see the fruits of any of that. So it's how I'm kind of rationalizing everything in my own mind and trying to come to peace with it all.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think there's still an element to it that our list is in need of a little bit of boosting through drafting and whatever building things we need to do over the next couple of years. But I think there is genuinely the opportunity to retool on the run or whatever word you want to use to avoid using the other word because Kosh and Co don't like using it. But yeah. And two, before closing off on this, actually, I want to bring up one more thing after. But just Warren Treadway said something really interesting on, I think it was 5AA this week. He's talking about succession plan and all that stuff, and he said, Josh Carr, there's a lot of criticism because he's working under Ken and what with the same thing. And he said, any job anyone's working in out there, like as an example, if you're working under someone and you're happy and the job's fine, but if you got the opportunity to be the boss man, would you do it the same? And he just kind of paused and said, not many of you out there are probably saying yes, are you? You'd immediately have ideas. So while Josh Carr's working under Ken and doing a lot of things that he wants to do, he's going to come in with his own ideas once he's got the keys to the car. So I thought that was just interesting, just as a side note. But that's getting again into a bit more mid-season chat. But before we get into segments, just quickly, obviously the big story out of the game, tribunal-wise, was the Alex Pearce and Darcy Byrne-Jones one. Before I get your opinion, I'm completely fine with the outcome. I'm not fine with the inconsistency, but to be objective, this is the kind of thing I've been wanting to see more from the tribunal over the last 18 months, and the MRO is recognising football acts and rewarding a player once you go into the end. Yeah, I'm actually pretty pleased with the outcome for Alex Pearce. More just adds to the ambiguity and cloudiness of what's going to happen going forward. But my opinion is
100%. Oh Lord.
Yeah.
And we haven't spoken about this, but I completely agree with you. I was actually going to tweet about it today, and you mentioned consistency and other adjudications of the MRO or tribunal, and unfortunately, it affects our player. Thankfully, heading into a bye, though, I will say, on our side of the fence, but I agree. I think that outcome is what it should be for those incidents, exactly like that one. I think the fact that it's either 0 or 3 is just a farce. Especially when you consider other examples, but I'm happy for. I want to see players not being penalised through like way of suspension for things like that on the footy field. In my opinion, it was 2 guys going for the ball, and then I
think that's a true 50.
I don't know if anyone's run. I don't know if anyone's run really fast and then tried to just stop, but your feet come off the ground because you're in motion, and Alex Pearce isn't small. So with that being said, when you isolate the incident, I want more people to be let off for examples such as that one.
Yeah.
We all know that hasn't been the case in recent years, and we all know it's because the AFL scrambles and whatnot, and they change like the wind on these matters. But I'm happy Pearce gets to play this upcoming week.
Yeah. It's a 50-50 marking contest. It was amazing. I find it bang my head through a fucking wall, stupefying that the AFL, like I was listening to David Zeta talk about it on one of the shows, I can't remember which one, and their position being that Alex Pearce should have recognised he was going to be second to the contest. Get
No.
any of those fucking
I'm not having that.
pencil pushing cunts out there to see in that situation. First of all, they're not going to be able to run that fast anyway, so it's probably immaterial. But like, you can't. The fundamentals of this game is it's so bang bang instinct based. If you start like, and this has been my problem with all of these, millisecond by millisecond breakdowns of these kind of situations when they're. And I'll use the Dan Houston one against Rankin last year as an example. That one was clearly beyond the pale. Yeah, whether it's 5 or 3 weeks, but it was weeks regardless. This one was breaking down a 50-50 marking contest, and it really was 50-50. I can't believe the AFL had a position that he should have recognised he would have been second to the contest. The only point that he can recognise that is before he commits to the contest. Once you committed to it, you're going.
More often than not, someone is second to the contest.
Yeah. The Nick Revolt won
Like-
the year against and crashing through some poor motherfucker like 10 years ago. And that one was like someone was marginally second to the contest.
Yeah.
Like-
exactly. Whether it's marginal, whether it's a millisecond, like someone has to be second to the contest.
Yeah, exactly.
And I heard something today about him not extending his arms, so therefore he wasn't going to go for the mark. I just think that, and this is completely the AFL's fault. Everyone is analysing every aspect of every MRO decision to the nth degree, and we're just everyone's getting tangled in knots. At the end of the day, fans, players, I'm sure, are quite comfortable seeing players getting weeks for egregious acts on the football field that either result or in people getting injured or otherwise if it's egregious enough. Fans, players, no one wants to see people getting rubbed out for just going hard at contests. That's why everyone loves the game. It's why the players playing the game play the game. So yeah, I'm happy with it. I would love that to be the standard from now on. Again, you can't change what's already happened as much as we'd like to grumble about certain things, but I'm happy with that. I still think they need to fix the fact that it can be either nothing or 3. I think that is absolutely fucking ridiculous. But yeah.
I know.
I feel for Darcy, and it does.
I'm glad Darcy did get up and walk off the field. Okay, he was obviously stung and concussed, obviously, but glad that.
But it does. Like, I don't. The red card chat or whatever. I haven't really considered.
Fucking makes.
But
no, it just doesn't work for our game.
Well.
And because
but
because they're going to do red card and then suspend for 7 weeks as well if it's some kind of, whereas a red card in soccer is just like
I think the people bring it up are too. Yeah, I think people bring it up are too focused on the fact that if you got a red card, then you just automatically get suspended. Like, but I like there is a universe where I can go, all right, Pierce, as a result of your action, you've taken someone out, so unfortunately you have to sit on the bench, but that doesn't automatically mean that you're suspended. It's just tit for tat. It's a bit like a sin bin in the NRL. Like you've done something that you should, someone can't play anymore as a result of your action. So the ledger, your team has to use their sub now. But again, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're suspended. It's just in this game, you've put the other team at a disadvantage. So, rightly or wrongly, you have to sit out. I don't think
I'm big
that players should automatically get suspended.
Yeah,
because someone's been concussed or whatever.
Yeah, and to be fair, even in this game, I just don't think he even just to your example, it's just like. you know, you see contests like that where if it goes a millimeter one way or the other, Darcy Byrne-Jones is fine as well. Like it's so, and that's the beauty of the sport that we love. And it's just like the fact that we're having to microanalyze it like that is, yeah. No, I was, yeah. As you said, we hadn't discussed this at all off air. We hadn't even we hadn't messaged about it or anything like that. I just was like, I'm going to bring it up at some point just to see what you think. And yeah, fans and players generally have a pretty good idea of what, you know, the common sense ideal is usually, and you know, media and players and everyone alike was kind of like, yeah, we'd be uncomfortable if this one got suspended, and it turns out the the tribunal had a rare win. It was funny hearing Zeta say, "Oh yeah, they're really trying to tell us that outcome really doesn't dictate." And I'm like, well, that hasn't been the last 2 years. But anyway, like if they're going to try and change that, that's good. But it doesn't change the fact that it has been outcome based, very, very obviously, in the last few years. Did you have anything else on the game, or did you want to get to segments and just fucking, as you said a few weeks ago for another game, burn the tape?
Let's do it. Yeah, let's get into it.
Burn the tape.
Down, Gray doing brilliantly, getting through to Monfries. That's Gray at his best.
Wilson kicks hard and kicks cruelly.
Robbie! Let him entertain you!
Alrighty, Wilson Gray first, as always. Jamie, you get to go first. I know you were lamenting off air there wasn't too many options, but I'm sure you've got one. You've got first pick, so you get the pick of the bunch.
Yeah, right. There's not a lot, but one of them I can't actually remember what it is, so that's not going in. But I'll pick Richards' chase down tackle on Johnson, who you mentioned had a good game earlier for Fremantle. It was about 7 minutes left on the clock in the third quarter.
Ball spun back in. Off hands. Johnson, run down by Richards. Terrific tackle.
That's fantastic. Sweating pressure as the high half forward.
Well, if you're Port, there's no quick fix, really. I mean, you can do a couple of things. Throw some caution to the wind. Open the game up a little bit.
Spirit of the Wilson Gray. Just didn't give up. Chase down tackle is always a nice one to see on game day. Yeah. And at that point, the game was getting away from us. Well and truly.
It is interesting that we've got, that's got to be Richards. I know I've nominated him at least twice, so that's 3 tackles for him this year. A nice little piece of his game we're seeing this year. Unfortunately, you know, not getting to see a whole lot of some of the other attributes.
He'd be a bit, I wonder if he's a bit conflicted because he's like, I could be at Collingwood but not playing, but they're doing all right. And like, yeah, I'm at Port. I'm getting games, but we're not really doing that well. So, no slight on him. He's doing what he can.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, he's doing great. And no, I think he's going to be a good one to have down the next few years. So, yeah, and like I said, this is at least his 3rd nomination for this specific kind of action, which is, as you said, in the spirit of the Wilson Gray all the way. I had a couple of options, actually. I think George Yardy's mark right on the line for that goal in the first quarter was a great, just such a great moment. Like, because that's a lost play almost. Like that's any other time that's getting spoiled over the line. You kind of just, but
absolutely. Don't know how it wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's just someone has a fresh area at it at some point. It just kind of ends up in his hands. Also, honourable mention to Rosie's tackle on Brayshaw. I think that was in the first quarter. And I think like Freo had a really good run of like sequence of play to get it down. It looked like almost a certain goal scoring sequence of possession, but Rosie gets Brayshaw. But gone with another Rosie moment though. He had this really good like kind of on the wing in the first quarter. 3 minutes to go-ish. It's the ball's in play and just ends up on the ground, and Rosie just comes through the one-handed pickup and it kind of just sticks to his hand, and suddenly he's got possession of the ball from the ground, and then he does this little evasive move and then gets the disposal off to go down forward, and it's just like everyone.
True Rosie stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
Trying to trash the way through. Wagner's in there. Bergman did well. Rosie, what a pickup, and he's able to get clear. Fleet of foot. with supreme skill. He sends it inside 50. Finlayson almost was just knocked out of his hands.
It felt like everyone froze and he just came in and grabbed it, and then he evades just a couple of players that try to tackle him, and he actually just gets away without any contact and then just disposes it down forward. So real classy, rosy stuff. And he's having a real, it's a difficult year as with how everything's going, but he's having some classy moments as the year goes on.
Yeah, but he's a shit captain, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. All the fucking couch potato coaches out there. I could do a whole podcast about that. Anyway, yeah, a couple of decent nominations out of a shit game. Let's go for the goal of the week.
Monfries has kicked a goal. Unbelievable. Haven't seen anything like that. It's gone at right angle.
Flashpoint, Stevie Modloff, what a time! He is floating on air now!
Goal of the week. Again, it's really frustrating that we're getting games where it's like 5 goals to choose from, 7 goals to choose from, but there was some good ones in this one. I'm going with Mitch, and it's actually there's a few options that are right in my wheelhouse, but I'll leave any honourable mentions until I've heard yours. But I'm going for Mitch's set shot from right on 50.
But Georgiades has already kicked one tonight from close range. He'll let this one go from 50. It's a long, strong kick of the footy from Georgiades. 2 in the first 2.
You a setup. I'm not buying impromptu, perhaps. Bumping into you at this cafe that we set up.
He kicked 2 in both of the games against
50, yeah.
Love.
It's on the short list.
Yeah. I mean, it's a short list anyways. But just a great fucking roost, right on the line, so it's from 50, and it's cleared comfortably as well. So it's probably like a 55-meter if you're going with the bounce challenge as to how far a kick has gone.
Put it through the lab.
Yeah, exactly. I'd love to see it through the lab because I'm thinking it probably just lands over the fence somewhere, and I'm thinking 55. But anyway, great roost. Great little setup to it too, like a rare moment of just get it forward at all cost stuff because it comes out of a contest, and Miles Bergman just fucking hacks it off the floor and ends up in a mark for Georgiades. So, was it a free? I can't even remember. But either way, the goal was good. A great set shot. Loved it. So that was my pick. I don't go set shots too often, but I really, really enjoyed that moment and a key part of the game when we were still in it. So wish it had stayed that way.
Credit to George.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, with this goal kicking of late, that was a marker for me. It's just okay. Yeah, because he'd taken the mark in the square. Was that before that? And it was all right, well, that's a gimme.
Yeah. That was his first. But then, game, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, then the kick from 50, you're like, oh, well, George has been a bit off. This could go fucking anywhere. Nails it. Great
in those
goal.
Conditions as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look,
honorable mention to Willie's magic at the end of the first half, just with 10 seconds to go. Maybe not immediately answering, but Freo got a goal not long before, and you're just like, fuck's sake, junk time shit again. And then we got a junk timer in reply to keep us 8 points behind. But mine is actually going to be
at Optus Stadium is exact. I'm happy with that. It's just everything that happens afterwards. Fuck. Anyway.
Yeah. You're just like, okay, all right, something to work with here. But no. My nomination is going to be Finlayson's snap from deep in the first quarter.
Rain getting heavier, and it's tougher to hang on to it. Not 15 for Finlayson, who has to arc around off the left boot. Good connection to the square. It's made the line. Pearce couldn't get there, and Finlayson's kicked a great goal in the wet.
First, it was a great contest from, I think, it may have been a half forward. I can't work out exactly who it was. Didn't cover the left foot there, Warner. But look how much this one does. Some work late. Pearce desperate on the line, but wonderful finish from Finlayson.
Something that he's very capable of, but again, conditions, distance, and difficulty all wrapped into one.
Yeah.
Finn, 1 goal, 2 on the day. So when we're talking about George getting, his 4 shots on goal, that we generally account for, I reckon Finlayson's always having, 2, 3, or 4. But at Port Adelaide, Jeremy Finlayson has always just suffered inaccuracy troubles.
One of
I
those
think
was
throughout
a
his whole
snap out of
time.
snap out of contest, and he just kind of shaves left of the post, so it was not too far away.
And he does go for those a lot.
Yeah.
To go along with what you're saying, I agree with that. Yeah, he does just kind of chance it a lot, which doesn't look good on a stat sheet because general play goals like that can go. I mean, their X score would be pretty low. I would imagine, sometimes, but yeah. While we are suffering for taking our opportunities and things like that, you want to see a Finlayson showdown game more often than not.
Yeah, and we, especially with the injury travails we're going through at the moment, you'd really like to see that more often than not from Finlayson. I was just trying to look up actually his X score for the game because I'd love to actually see what the plus minus on it was. Just scrolling down there. The other thing, just while I scroll and pad for a few seconds, the fact that goal that you just know, because that was going to be one of my honorable mentions, it comes from Ollie putting it into him, and it's not 15, so he gets called to play on. I think he knows, though, which is like a rare moment of a player knowing that it's not 15. So he kind of takes the mark, and he probably hears the not 15 call in the motion of taking the mark, and he immediately just kind of wheels around. So I think that's an added element of why it's a good nomination, because a not 15 situation that he finishes off and just gets the bounce perfectly, that it just misses Alex Pearce's beautiful arms outreached on the goal line as well. So yeah.
I mean, we're Alex Pearce fans, it must be said, to just go back on the tribunal stuff, but the bias was definitely not attached to the situation. Like, I'm happy for any player in that situation to be let off suspension, but happy for Piercy that just as an individual.
Yeah. I did. I've already brought up Amel and the Sniffers. There was something that came out about him. He was talking about his record collection on some Instagram post I saw, and he's got like a signed copy of can't think of what their second album was called, but one of their albums. And he's just like, he fucking just partied, like hung out with them in Reykjavik in Iceland at a fucking festival. Like he slid into the and hung out with like the Sniffers in Iceland, and then like when they're on Earth, he got like a record signed by him, so he's like kind of mates with him as well. And but the fact that his first time hanging with him was in fucking Reykjavik I thought that was pretty cool. Alex Pearce is just
such a random location.
Alex Pearce, who like on that uninterrupted interview with Hamish McLaughlin, just said like, I don't even know half the players I play against these days. He just plays footy his role, and like he does it very well. Like, I think it's incredibly impressive because we're nuffies that just watch the game, and he can do what he does as a captain and a defender in the way that he metabolizes how he needs to understand.
He just does his job.
Exactly.
It's a job.
It's a job, but he does it. He does it frustratingly well on the night. That goal that he kicked as well, which just one more point of frustration before we get Player of the Year votes. That is just sums up our no, not that, not even that. Just no one stood the mark.
Yeah, I watched it just before earlier today, and it's exactly what went through my mind. I was like, this just epitomizes the rut that we're in.
Yeah, just that one.
It's like a defender,
5%, whatever it is.
A defender gets a fortunate 50-meter free kick, gets a shot on goal, and we're not even switched on enough to man the mark, and gives him an extra couple of meters at goal.
Yeah, the guy that just says that, like, I don't really watch much football, just has the forethought to be like, fuck, no one's standing the mark. You can just see him realize it and just take the runway and just run. God. And then we've got our fucking Bergman, like, kind of just dives in at the last second, but just, fuck it. Fucking Player of the Year votes. Let's do this thing. Now it's time for the CREEDCAST Player of the Year voting. I think the quality of that sting sums up our season. Anyway, Jamie, you get to go first.
I do, don't I? And as you know,
I'm so sorry that you have to go first.
I've put myself in knots here. I'm gonna go honorable mention. I've already brought him up. BZT, keeping Tracy goalless, albeit in a wet game. Just a return from a lengthy absence. Couldn't ask for a lot more.
Yeah.
From a player like that. So just wanted to give him a shout out. George as well, like we just mentioned, taking your opportunities when they're there, and put him on the scoreboard. Probably unfair to miss, although you can't really affect a game of football in that position. So my one vote goes to Rory Atkins for everything that we spoke about both tonight and on Thursday night. You come in, you play your role, you get it done. 25 disposals, nine of which were intercepts, which is leading for Port. 6 ground ball gets, 80% disposal efficiency, which was a relative outlier. 540 meters gained, 7 marks, 3 score involvements still as well, and 8 rebound 50s, which was, I think, up there, if not leading for Port Adelaide.
By reasonably comfortable distance.
Yeah. Then the next 4 are all on even points. No.
Yeah.
No.
It feels like that kind of game, though, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, look. I'm going to put Wines in at 2. He was the fan-voted MVP, and I don't take back anything I said about him. But it was mainly the disposal efficiency. He had 33 disposals, 14 contested possessions. I think I've got that number right. 11 ground ball gets. So some of these are leading Port Adelaide on the night. 410 meters gained, 7 clearances, 3 score involvements, 18 pressure acts, and 8 tackles. So a lot of effort from Ollie. Just his disposal let him down overall. Bergman goes at 3, 23 disposals, 5 intercepts, 7 ground ball gets. A really well-rounded game. He went at 78%, like you mentioned, I believe earlier. Nearly 550 meters gain, a goal off 6 marks. He got 1 goal assist, 7 score involvements as a whole, and 3 score launches. So just from a scoring perspective, was involved more than probably what a lot of people would appreciate or be aware of. 7 inside 50s and 24 pressure acts. My next one goes to Rosie. 27 disposals, 6 intercepts, 6 ground ball gets, nearly 500 meters gain, 3 marks and score involvements, inside 50s as well. So 3, 5 rebounds, 19 pressure acts, 6 tackles. So another well-rounded game. Like all of these players, yeah. Yeah. You're just like, the stats don't match up with how our team performed overall. And I guess that leaves Butters, who was our top champion data rated player on the night. He had 24 disposals, 15 contested, which was leading for Port, 9 ground ball gets, nearly 550 meters gained, 5 score involvements, 9 clearances, which I believe was best for Port, 5 inside 50s, 28 pressure acts, which was in the top echelon for Port, and 6 tackles. On first watch, didn't notice him as much as the second watch, I must say. But yeah, look, these votes were pretty fucking tough, if I'm being honest. You can make a case for him not to be best on ground. I'd probably cop it. And if you went first, I might have even changed mine around again.
You're gonna. This is gonna be.
That's just how
be the most discrepancy we've ever had in our votes.
And that's how the cookie crumbles.
Yeah, and I love that. And like for those listening, like we genuinely don't talk about this before, and those times that we get it pretty similar most of the time is just, but it just speaks to the game, I think, because I have Butters as one of my honorable mentions because, to your point, I looked at the stats afterwards, but I was just like, there was one play on the wing where he kind of like fucking just slapped it forward, and I was like, that's a great fucking 1%er play, and I was like into it. But beyond that, I was just like, and in games like this, I take a little bit of my expectation versus reality, and I probably judge Butters a bit harder because I'm like, I want more out of him. And so I felt like I feel like a crazy person.
More.
Yeah. Yeah. Fucking Kylo Ren. Ugh. Yeah. Fucking incel. Yeah, I felt like a crazy person when I did my votes and didn't have Butters in there, and I was trying to figure out how to get him in there. I was just like, I just don't find like I don't have him in there. So honorable mention to Butters, honorable mention to Bergman as well. So there's two. I just went different. I have George with one vote.
Built different.
Yeah. I wanted to get George Yardies in there because I think he played a really good game with limited opportunity. So I was like, fuck it. You kick 3 goals in a team that can't do shit down forward in this game because of the opportunity drying up. So one vote just for kicking 3 goals in a game that really that game shouldn't have had, particularly in the losing side, had the tall forward kicking 3 goals considering the conditions and all that. So one vote to George. I got 2 votes for Drew because I just thought he fucking had a decent Drew game considering it wasn't going our way in a way. But he had 10 tackles, 23.
He sure did. It was a good Drew game.
Yeah, he went at okay disposal efficiency, I guess. He had to.
I'm sad that I didn't get him in.
Yeah, 6 clearances, almost 400 meters gain. Like it was a pretty good Drew game for what he. Sometimes, and particularly some of the trials and tribulations he's had this year, as far as us even criticising where he fits in the midfield. And again, the midfield mix isn't great, but I thought he had an okay game. I gave 3 to Rosie. Again, like disposal efficiency for everyone wasn't great on the day, but I thought Rosie had a reasonable game still, and he applies himself really well. That's the thing. Like I'd never question on the day at the moment. Is like Rosie's trying harder than.
I think he played every line on the night as well.
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah,
he was just everywhere.
Yeah, and like
should have had a shot on goal had George not fucking shanked it out on the full.
Yeah, because and that does affect your game when you get moved around so much. But he's one of the few players that can do that to high effect. So I think that's worthy of it. I gave 4 to Atkins. I was like, if you can come in and fucking play that well, like, great. Like, I just think that there's such a like when you're taking 7.
Here's some flowers.
Yeah, like. 8 rebound 50s, as you said, led the team. 7 marks. 80% disposal efficiency was really, really impressive considering actions and all those things. I think he had a decent amount. Actually, no, probably not too many, but he had the 3-1 percenters, which beyond your likes of Zerk Thatcher and Alir is more or less team one of the higher ones on the team. So. He was trying hard. He had almost 540 meters gained himself. He had 9 intercepts, which I think leads the team actually as well. So, his stat line was quite impressive. So I thought he deserved that. And yeah, I gave Wines best on. Understand your reasons for putting him lower because his disposal efficiency really does let him down. But I just still think his application to the game and what he does, considering he shouldn't be shouldering the load he is at the moment. I just thought he was the one I noticed probably more than a lot of players, and that's probably what annoys me is that Butters should be the player I'm noticing more, but he was out of the game for me a lot considering his stat line is impressive as you said, but just such a weird game, man. That's why the stats are so hard. Because often I test. I noticed. 1-to-1 with your stats, but it was such a weird one with this one. Atkins is probably the only one that his eye test goes 1-for-1 with what his stat line read.
Yeah, that's a fair call.
And
because I got to admit,
binary.
George, great shout. Bergman again, like Butters as well. Like I think because he was a bit of everywhere.
Yeah,
but his statistics were just so much more influential. Like, when you package everything together, that surprised me. Yeah, all for Wines being best on. I'm happy for you to do that because I love him. I noticed that he was like evading, kind of selling a candy is probably too far, but just kind of like bit of shake and bake type of stuff. Which I'm 100% for from Ollie Wines. Just fucking kick it to advantage. Yeah. Just run through some blokes.
Yeah.
I want to see some centre bounces centered around him and just him steamrolling cunts.
Yeah, kind of like we've used HORNE-FRANCIS at times this year, like where like
apologies for the language. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like I feel like he's been overtaken and like they're like centering.
Yeah.
Do the things that he was absolutely capable of and just
literally
put himself at the forefront.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, let's get him back into it.
Yeah,
no way, you can't bloody tackle him. Like it's unstoppable.
And he's got the experience and the nous to do it. So yeah, I think that's the first time we've ever had one of us give best on and then the other one not have them in the votes. But again, I love that because it just sums up the kind of game it was. And also for those out there that might, when we Yahtzee go, geez, they must talk about this. Surely they talk about this. We don't. We find out as it goes.
It's not that deep. Yeah, we don't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We don't have the time to fucking try to like fake that.
No one's getting an actual award. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, no, I love that. I'm gonna do. Just start wrapping up because we don't have a game to even talk about and look forward to this weekend.
Preview, yeah,
exactly. So
the injury list will be different coming into our next game. So yeah,
absolutely,
it is what it is for the time being.
Absolutely. So yeah, for now, I mean, enjoy the weekend for everyone. But for a bit of housekeeping, we will be again. I mentioned it near the start of the show, but this Monday, we'll be recording our half-season review that we did something of that last year, and but we're going to bring Eddie Corns on. So thank you to Eddie for coming on for that. And looking forward to doing that with him on Monday.
Oh yeah.
So that'll
forward to it.
Yeah, that'll release Tuesday morning. So recording Monday night, release Tuesday with Eddie for a mid-season review of everything that's been going on. So that should be a lot of fun because there's lots of stuff to talk about as far as the totality of the first half of the year that we've seen. And then, our squad show for Patreon will be back on next Thursday because that'll be the lead into the first game of our second half. So, lots to look forward to, but nothing more for the rest of this week. You get a rare break from
how good.
Yeah, we don't have to think about misery and just second half fade outs and the horrible plus minus of the second half of Port Adelaide games this year.
Go and do something that you truly love, or go do something that you've been wanting to do for a while and you haven't got around to. Just go and enjoy this weekend. Stay in, relax, grab a blanket, Tim Tam slams, whatever it is. Like, just enjoy it. Enjoy not being frustrated for one weekend. And then we'll come back again next week and we'll do it all over again.
Yeah, we'll bring you right back down to the depths.
Not the break, the frustration.
I'm going to try and finally see Sinners this week, so that's what I'm looking forward to.
Nice.
Yeah.
Get some
movies in that I've been looking forward to. There's a few horror movies out at the moment. Clown in the Cornfield, New Final Destination, and Sinners is apparently meant to be really good. So and then Bring Her Back's coming out this week as well. So fucking movies. I'm going to see
just do it.
Just transition from football horror to film horror, which is much more enjoyable for me.
There's some parallels.
Exactly. But for now, get around. Keep following us on the socials, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, whatever it may be. Get around the socials and again, sign up for the Patreon if you haven't already. I'm going to send out some sticker packs to people soon that have signed up. So if you haven't already and want a sticker pack, and sign up for it. The weekly shows, our weekly squad shows that lead into previews for every week are on there, and we have a lot of fun with those. Often where we can throw in a little bit of banter as well, because those shows do run a little bit shorter, so we have a bit of time and breadth to talk about some other
bit of AFL broader chat. Yeah,
exactly. No, we enjoy them. So, for now, Jamie, fucking welcome to the bye week. Welcome to stress-free fucking weekend.
Can breathe easy.
We'll see you guys Monday for the, Tuesday for when you listen to it for the mid-season review. For now,
Can the pair.
Can't appear.
and the pair. And the pair.
Enjoy the bye week, guys. Catch you later.